Okay, guys. So what we're doing here is we're going to, listen up, we're going to recreate the Shawnee Migration. So where the Shawnee originated was here in Lake Chapala. Our history goes back about 13,000 years. That's how far back we trace it. So we started here. There was a problem though, because we were farmers, things were going well, but we had neighbors. And we had two types of neighbors. We had the Maya and then the Aztec. And so the Maya and the Aztec, they kept using us as basically slave labor. They didn't farm, they just took the food that we grew. And then they decided that our young people, like your ages, made really good human sacrifices. And so they started they started killing off our kids.
What?
And so we said, oh, we got to stop that. We got to get away from that. So there were actually several migrations out of central Mexico. There were earlier groups.
So we got away?
There were earlier groups that left, but when the Shawnee left, main group that we were worried about was the Aztec. The Aztec had kind of taken over from the Maya. And so what the people did is they gathered up everything in the middle of the night and started leaving. But there was left behind a group of warriors.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody else started moving up the Yucatan Peninsula. What? RJ.
You're supposed to be back there.
Come here, Dustin.
I won't defeat you, warriors!
So what they did is they fought the Aztec that came after us. And the
Giant baton!
and the Aztec said, all right, fine, you guys can go.
Lightsaber!
Wait for me.
So, all right, but not too far. Dustin, right around here.
Right over here.
So, listen, guys.
Machine gun.
Nope, no machine guns. So they came to the end. Listen.
Way too much in the future. And
Listen.
Don't exist. Yeah.
So came to the end of the Yucatan Peninsula.
We call the Yucatan
And here
Peninsula.
at the Yucatan Peninsula, we ran into the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so you have this huge body of water. Listen up, guys.
Me in that
RJ.
water. I mean in the water.
Had this huge body of water, and the people had to decide if they wanted to try to go across the water or go by land. So half the people decided to go by land, and half decided to go by water.
I have one vote.
So,
Logan, you want to go with us?
gotta listen. Be patient with the story, guys. So we're gonna have Ben, RJ, and Dustin. You're gonna walk around by land. So this line right here, you're gonna slowly walk along
I want
that.
to swim to my
No.
death.
You're gonna slowly walk along that
Mine.
around the Gulf of Mexico.
This way? Is it this way?
Yep. And then Logan and Zach, they came to the Kuna people. C-U-N-A. So here is the Kuna people. And they got help making boats to go across the water this way. Follow me. Went around. Right there. Right there.
Walk in the line.
Stay right. And landed in Florida. And you can just set your boats down. Now remember I told you guys that the Shawnee grew crops? Can you grow crops on a beach?
No.
No.
Unless there's sugar cane.
Or a swamp, right. Very hard to grow crops in a swamp or on the beach. So, but their boats down.
Fine.
Their boats down.
This is mine boat. It's mine.
They started
put a
walking
boat
slowly northward.
Where's north?
North
Over
is
this way.
Okay, shh, not you yet.
Not you.
So, but as they walked, they were running out of supplies. They weren't finding food to eat. They weren't finding anything to listen.
And me?
They weren't finding anything to eat from the land. And so they finally got to a point where they sat down on the edge of a river and waited to die. So, they sat down and waited to die. But the next morning, when they woke up, they saw another group of people across the river. And they started getting ready for a fight. Because if they didn't know them, they figured they must be enemies. But as the group that came by water started yelling their orders back and forth, they realized that they were hearing the same language from the group across the river. And so what had happened... So what had happened was the two groups had come together. That made them willing to try to find food again. So they sent out searchers, and they found food where the alligator builds her nest. So it'd be a mound.
And then a mountain. And then a star.
And a very poorly drawn alligator.
Yeah. It's more like a booger.
A really poor alligator.
More like a long booger.
That's more like a really poor alligator that can't really do anything.
About potty humor and person.
There we go. So, RJ.
RJ.
So they went and found alligators at her nest. And they gathered up all the baby alligators that they could and all of the eggs and ate them all up. But then they waited to die again because they had broken what we call the Bibidissawan Wachita, the balance of life. They had taken more than they could give. So they figured, well, we broke the contract with Kichimanatu, the Great Spirit, who most of us call God. So we're going to wait to die again. But one of the elders said, we'll give the alligator a gift. And if the gift is accepted, then we'll be okay. So they went to the alligator and said, hey, we will make you our national symbol. And the alligator accepted the gift. Now, do you think we literally went to an alligator and said, hey, you want to be our national symbol?
No.
No. It's part of the story. But the alligator is our national symbol, like the bald eagle is for the United States.
Yeah.
So, the people decided that they would try again to find land that would work. And so they sent out a scout. Let's see, Zach, you're going to be my scout.
Oh, he is the oldest.
And he comes right about to here. And he looks around and says, hey, this is great land right here. A lot of places to farm here. So he goes back to the people. And he says, hey, I found a great place with lots of land, lots of places to farm, and on the way there's a great big swamp and no alligators. So the people gathered up the baby alligators and the eggs again and took them with them and deposited them into that swamp. And that's how the alligator is an introduced species in the Okefenokee Swamp in Georgia.
Okefenokee.
Yep.
Pinocchio.
So, the people kept going north. But as they went, sometimes somebody would say, you know what, I've gone far enough. And they'd stop and build their own village. And others would keep coming, keep coming. And then somebody else stops and says, I've gone far enough. And the people who were left, they came to the valley of the Spele-Wathipi, what we call the Ohio now. And they met a group of people that archaeologists now call Hopewell. And they were very similar. I think they were probably an earlier migration from Mexico. And so they were unfortunately dying out. We don't know if there'd been a sickness that went through or what. Cough. But they were dying out. So the people merged with them and became what archaeologists call the Fort Ancient, but we still called ourselves the Shawnee. So the Shawnee then were living between the two Miami rivers,
Mexico,
the Great and Little Miami, along the back up, along the Scioto River and the Muskingum River. Those were the primary ones.
What's
But then,
hey, you made a whale. You made a whale tail.
But then some of the tribe went way north for hunting. Let's have Logan and Dustin went north hunting. And they ran into a group of people in upstate New York called the Ainu. And they said, hey, we've got some great land back where we come from. You want to move in, be neighbors with us? And they said, sure. So they came on back to the valley of the Ohio as well and became the Kispoko band of the tribe. And that is how in 1101 CE, about 900 years ago, the Shawnee came to be in Ohio. I did forget one thing though that I need to put down here. When the people came together again, they met up and they found the food. They made a mound.
What's a mound?
It's
a giant robot.
Now, in this case, the mound is it was a pile of rocks, quartzite rocks. Then really, really big. Like you can see it on Google Maps big.
Is that an ear?
This is called the Rock Eagle Effigy Mound. Effigy means it's in the shape.
It looks like a bird.
Yeah, it's a bird.
Look at this.
So it's in the shape of an animal. That's what makes it an effigy mound. And that is still there. That is still there. You can see that. It's on the Crystal River in right along the Florida-Georgia border.
You made a whale tail over here. Whale tail!
So that is how the Shawnee came to be in Ohio. Let's go back.